3rd, 2026. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Our first matter of business today are the minutes. Any questions, comments? If not,
Motion to approve.
Second.
have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Minutes are approved. Moving on to new business. We have Resolution LRC 2026-15. Dennis?
Yes, that's a resolution recommending approval of a deduction for the purpose of tax abatement in an economic revitalization area for real estate Ray Magnet Wire Company. So we're excited about Ray Magnet Wire making another expansion, another investment in our community. They are requesting a 7-year tax abatement on a 30,000 square foot expansion of their facility. And we have Chris Billingsley here, the CEO, and I'll have him come up and explain a little bit more about the project and answer any questions you have.
Good morning, thank you. Nice to meet you all today. My name is Chris Billingsley, and I'm the president and CEO of Ray Magnet Wire. I've been with the organization a little over 18 months now, and I do live here in the Lafayette community. Ray Magnet Wire is a manufacturer of copper and aluminum insulated wires used in products that we, as people deal with every day, anything from motors and appliances, HVAC systems, motors inside of cars, power distribution, including transformers, large industrial transformers in substations, and transformers inside of manufacturing facilities. Our newest growth end market is providing wire for electric and hybrid vehicles and cars, and we completed a manufacturing expansion in Lafayette in 2024. We continue to see growth in that end market, albeit at a different rate today. We are in the process of building a 30,000 square foot warehouse in our Lafayette facility to support the growth of this end market. Our customers that are original equipment manufacturers, the big 3 automakers, as well as tier 2 suppliers, request significant amounts of inventory that we hold to buffer their supply chain. And so this warehouse will enable us to hold that inventory here in Lafayette and then distribute to their facilities throughout North America. We appreciate your consideration in this and do see the Lafayette community as a long-term partner for our organization. We appreciate the opportunity to operate in this community and look forward to your approval.
Thank you very much. Anything, anybody? We appreciate your being here.
Yeah.
That being said,
I'd move approval LRC 2026-15.
Second.
have a motion and a second. Anything else? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Again,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Next item on the agenda, Dennis, is Resolution LRC 2026-16.
Yes, and we're asking for that to be taken off the agenda. There was a misunderstanding between Greater Lafayette Commerce and the company concerning some of their tax filings and such, and come to find out there was no issues. Everything was done properly and on time and such, so we do not need to take action on this particular resolution.
Okay. Moving on to the next item, Resolution LRC 2026-17.
And that's a resolution authorizing the offering for sale of certain real property located at 605 Main Street, Lafayette, Indiana. If you remember a few years back, we purchased property at 601 and 605 Main Street. It was owned by the same owner. It came together, and we purchased that for long-term investment, but particularly for the Long Center. And really, for the Long Center, if we do any kind of expansions or anything with that, we would be just looking at 601 Main Street. So we really don't need 605 Main Street. So we are asking to put that out now as a building as a public offering here at $315,000. And then offers can come in between now and August 27th at our next meeting. So asking for your approval of this public offering.
One quick question, the value, how is that established?
Through the average of 2 appraisals, so we have to offer at least the minimum of 2 appraisals, but we can offer above that if we so choose to.
Anything else, folks?
Are you aware of any interested parties in this particular space at this moment in time?
Not right now, no.
Thank you.
If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The next item, William Charles Construction.
And this is a change order, and this is a change order we like to see. It's for our Main Street project, and it's for a decrease of $47,271.50. So our previous contract amount was $2,471,848.48, and then with this new decreased change order, it will be $2,424,576.98. So asking for your approval.
Any questions?
Motion to approve change order number 4.
I'll second, and then be able to ask a question, right?
Please go ahead.
Mr. Carson, would you kind of reconcile, on the third page, you have this document with you?
Not in front of me, but go ahead.
On the third page, there is a reference to previously authorized changed orders, and that amount appears to be different than the amount on the first page. So I think what I need to understand is, on page number 1, it said that increase or decrease from previously approved change orders is $34,490.
Okay.
Is that 34,490 include both increases and decreases, I presume? Or is it only an increase? That's the question.
I believe.
You need to see this?
Yeah, I believe that would be the previous, because this is change order number 4, so that's the previous change orders, and those were increases.
Just one change order or more than one?
I believe it's the aggregation of the first 3.
That's what I presume.
Yeah.
And so if that's the aggregation of the first 3, the net change mentioned on the other page is more like $69,000.
Okay. We would need to look into that then.
Jackie, want me to show this to you?
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Here, it's right
The
here.
other ones were increases, and this
Here,
one
let
is
me-
decrease.
The difference between that.
It may be, if it's not an aggregation, Mr. Mayor, absolutely. I think what you said will hold. The bottom 2 numbers are correct. What the total was and what we subtracted
Oh,
is correct.
okay. Well,
So if we had 3 where it went up, and this one came down.
yeah, it says that 34,490, it says, an increase, decrease from previously approved change orders number 1 through 3. So, reading that, I would say that's the amount aggregated 1 through 3, but I bet it's actually change order number 3.
The most recent one only.
Yes, and that the total of 1 through 3 is on the second page there, the $69,348.48. But, we can confirm that.
Yeah, I mean, we can, the numbers all end up being where the
Last 2
final
numbers are
number,
correct,
the final
yeah.
two,
Yes,
the
the
final number is
it's
correct.
correct.
So, yeah, I cannot answer that with certainty without seeing the other prior change orders.
I'm okay.
Okay.
Everybody knows what's going on. I'm good.
Okay.
I know what I'm voting on.
Yeah.
That's what I need to know.
But yeah, we can definitely check that to be sure.
Thank you. That's the only question I have.
We have a motion and a second. Do we need to amend it or just proceed?
I didn't put an amount out there just for that reason.
I'm okay if it's
In
not
essence, we're
amended.
approving the,
The change.
change order.
Yeah,
Our
approving
amount
change order
and
number 4. So.
Yes.
okay, we have a motion.
And if we do look at it and we realize that there is a technical typo that we need to come back and correct, we'll bring it back next month and rectify it. So.
Yeah.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. J.S. Held.
Yes, this is for the Lafayette Theater renovation owners project management amendment number 1. As you know, J.S. Held is our owner representation for the Lafayette Theater project, and we are changing the actual person that will be working on the project. So Mary Krupinski was our rep from J.S. Held, and now it's going to be Seth Krussell. So we're changing the contract to reflect that. Then also, we're changing the dates to extend the contract, not changing the price or anything, just extending the date of service. Because, we've gone a little farther than the original contract, because we were waiting on some financing and some grants as well, too. So asking for your approval for this amendment.
Any questions?
No, Mr. Carson answered my question.
Okay.
Schedule only, not an increase in
correct.
cost. Yes. I would move approval of amendment 1 to the owner's project management agreement.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Kettle Hut Inc.
And this is also for the Lafayette Theater. This is the guaranteed maximum price amendment. And this is for the first phase, which is going to include demolition and roofing only. And it's in the amount of $2,710,334. There will be later phases as we progress through this project, but this is the very first one. And this is the amount for, again, for the demolition and roofing. So if you have any questions, happy to answer them, but asking for your approval.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I believe this was in addition to the agenda for the Environmental Assurance Company.
Yes, and this is also for the Lafayette Theater. So this is for lead paint and asbestos abatement. This agreement with EACI, and it's for $24,000. And it's going to be approximately about 4 days of work and such for this. So asking for your approval.
Any questions?
As I read this, it's primarily not just lead paint and asbestos, but on the floor and the doorways?
Yeah,
Right.
there's probably some asbestos in pipe wrap and some in tile, and then some of the door jambs have lead paint and things of that nature, so they're going to be removing those.
So in and of itself, it probably is a fairly simple removal, especially given the time frame that you mentioned.
Right,
So we wouldn't expect anything else to really come up after
right.
this.
The areas have
We're
been identified.
Yes. Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do we need two for the agreement and the notice to proceed, or is that all?
Yeah, they need to be separate. So the
Okay.
first is the agreement.
First issue, do I have a motion for the agreement?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And then next is the notice to proceed to get them to start work starting today and then through August 15th. But again, it's only going to take about 4 days, and they're going to be starting next week.
We have a motion. Have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Notice to proceed is granted. Dennis, our annual report, please.
Yes, every year we give an annual report, and we work with our financial advisors with Baker Tilly for that. And we have Greg Balsano here today that'll give you that report, and we'll be happy to answer any questions. So we'll get things set up and let Greg make his presentation.
So if I turn the mouse around.
Good morning. My name is Greg Balsano, Baker Tilly Municipal Advisors. It's nice to see you all today. Thank you for having me. As you guys are familiar, every summer here, we kind of come through and do our annual TIF presentation for you all in the public to go through kind of what's going on with your TIF areas, what's the plan for those, what's the budgets, those kind of items, not only because it benefits everyone, to kind of know that, but also it was made a state requirement to do that a few years back to have this meeting at one point throughout the calendar year and invite those overlapping taxing units to come attend this meeting, which we did here today. So, and thank you to Michelle, for helping with all of that. And just want to go through kind of, again, each of your areas. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. I'm going to go through the colorful PowerPoint presentation. It's kind of a summary of your thicker report that I handed you there. But obviously, if you're reading this, later, throughout the year and you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to Dennis or me directly, and I can help you walk through anything. So with that, I'm going to kind of start here with the first area, the Consolidated Creasy Central EDA. Now, when you hear me refer to terms EDA, Economic Development Area, and Allocation Area, just as a reminder of what those mean. The Economic Development Area with TIF is the area in which you can spend the dollars. So you can spend those TIF monies in serving or benefiting the Economic Development Area. An allocation area, one economic development area can have multiple allocation areas, which you'll see here that we do with this one in particular. The allocation areas are where the money is actually generated, right? So they're within the boundaries of the EDA. You'll often have separate allocation areas for, different lives of areas, different maybe obligations paid from those. But again, allocation area is where the money's generated, EDA is where the money can be spent. A reminder of how TIF works. TIF is a capture of the increase in assessed value over the period of time. So from when the TIF was created, you set what's called the base assessed value, and that is the net assessed value of all of the properties at that point in time. So TIF captures that increase. So over time, as you put more money into the area, hopefully the area grows, development happens, the increase in assessed value that occurs, that times your tax rate is how you generate your TIF dollars. Okay, so you're just capturing the increase, you're not capturing the assessed value that was there when the area was created. And so, as we kind of go through here today, I'll kind of walk through. So, starting with the Creasy Central area, you can see there's a variety of different allocation areas that make up this. We have the Central, North 9th, Creasy Brady, Creasy Treese, and Creasy Central consolidated. In 2025, collections came in very strong, right around estimates there. As you can see, estimated right around 17 million, and it came in about 16.9 million, showing that means people were paying their taxes timely and efficiently, which is a great sign there. And in 2026, we expect that number to jump to about $20.7, $20.8 million. And that's a result of development happening in the area, as well as some amendments that were done in the last few years. But just to kind of give you a sense of how much this area, and frankly, all your areas have grown from all the development that's been occurring. Just 6 years ago, back in 2020, this area collected $11.4 million. So just a testament to how much development is occurring, within your areas, and what that money, being put back into those areas is doing to the assessed values and TIF revenues that you're generating. In this area, you have a variety of different obligations, debt obligations that are paid from it. And so just kind of showing, this is a chart, and it's very colorful, as you'll see, but it has all the different bonds that this TIF is used to support. And you can see the fluctuation that, later in the life here, we start to drop down debt payments. The reason for that, why it is such a drastic drop-off after 2039, is that is when a majority of this area will expire. We'll kind of go through what that looks like later on, but just to give you a sense, so the debt payments, as you can see, are around $7.3 or so million annually. That leaves you, and we'll show this later, but that kind of leaves you a pretty good gap between that $20 million, $20.7 million I mentioned, revenues and your debt payments, showing that, if something happened, you have more than 2 times coverage of revenues to debt, right? So, but again, in 2039, again, that reason that falls off after that year is when a majority of these areas will expire and that TIF will go away. So just keep that date in mind, is that is a kind of a significant drop off there. Walking through kind of each of these obligations, I won't go into these in great detail, but this is what each of those obligations were and what they were issued for at that time. And so you could see back here in 2020, we have the Ellsworth project bonds. That financed the construction of a mixed-use market rate residential unit facility. About 3.1 million is available. And I also want to note, we note when each of these bonds become redeemable, meaning they could be paid off early or refunding bonds could be issued. That's something we're always tracking for the city to make sure if there are adequate refunding savings, we would bring that to the city's attention to say, hey, we could potentially refund these bonds and save some money down the line. So we keep an eye out on those dates if they're callable. You can see the 2021A and 2021B lease rental bonds. That was a multi-story police station there, the new police station that was built. That's what those obligations went to fund back in 2021. You have the 2021 refunding revenue bonds, refunded a variety of different bonds there. You can see the 2015 bonds, 19 bonds, and 2020 Nova Tower project bonds. Again, those were funding a variety of projects, including mixed-use facilities. We have the 2022 tax-exempt refunding there, and that refunded some 2014 bonds to get some interest savings, which were used for, again, a variety of projects, including the Center for Performing Arts, the St. John's Pavilion. We have the taxable 2022 bonds, and that funded, again, a variety of improvements, including improvements to City Hall. And here in the last few years, we have the 2024 John Purdue block bonds, again, a mixed-use facility there, Anvil project, forgivable loan structure, Vita Lifestyle project. That was a multifamily housing unit facility there. And here is that graph I was mentioning, kind of showing that teal blue background. That is the revenue. Okay, so that's the revenue, that $20.8 million that we're estimating. And that those red bars, that is the debt. So again, this is showing you have, plenty of coverage there in case something were to occur and, TIF revenues were to drop for whatever the reason might be. You have about a $13.7 million gap, between those two. And not only as a cushion, but also to be able to use as for pay-as-you-go projects for the annual type expenses that you occur and don't issue debt for. The other thing I do want to note is that you'll see that line dip, and there's two reasons for the dip. One is we have factored in the impacts from recent legislation over the last few years, what that could do to assessed values. And we have also factored in, again, the expirations. So when you create a TIF area, it has a designated life of really whatever the law was at that time. So that's varied over the life of TIF. At one point, it was 30 years. At one point, it was 25. As we stand here today, it's actually 25 years from the date you issue the debt. So again, variety of lives, but we factor all that in, and this graph does illustrate, you can see there, again, beginning 2040, that drop-off when a lot of these revenues will go away. The other thing I want to mention, and I mention this every year, but I would say that these estimates are likely fairly conservative because we're only estimating what's in the ground today and those future impacts. So think of it as, the future development that occurs in the next handful of years is not, we're not illustrating something out for that. The other thing I want to note is that a lot of the debt, some of the debt that we talked about has minimum payments tied to those. And so that's something we monitor every 6 months or so. And what I mean by that is, to give you an example, the John Purdue project has a minimum taxpayer agreement with that. So not only are you protected from a standpoint of the cushion that we have here, but also if their allocation area revenues did not come in where anticipated, where that debt payment was, there's a requirement for them to make up the difference. Okay, so there's kind of, on some of the projects, there's kind of two facets of protection there. This is kind of the budget here for 2026. You can see a variety of different, again, the debt that we've been talking about, the economic development activities, various capital projects, and professional services, those totaling about $19.7 million. And here's a variety of projects that the TIF could be used for. Again, not meant to be an all-inclusive list, but just something wanting to mention there. And one thing I do want to note is that TIF a few years back, an allowable use was made that you could use it for public safety operating costs. That was not always something that you could use TIF for as operations for public safety. You can do that now. But one thing I always tell communities is to caution about that is a reminder that TIF goes away, right? So if you're banking on that to be using for annual operations, you have to keep in mind that one day we're not going to have this money sitting there to be able to use for that. So you need to have a backup plan if that becomes a time when you start using it for those types of expenses.
Are we doing that at all?
I know
Present?
there's capital. I don't
think
just
so.
capital, I believe. Yeah. Yep. So we're going to move here into the Twickenham Economic Development Area. This economic development area collected about $2.8 million or so last year, right around the estimates. And we expect that to jump because of new development and, again, some amendments that were done to about $3.5 million. Again, just illustrating the growth that's happened back in 2020, so about 6 years ago, this area was collecting about $1.5 million. So again, a lot of development occurring, different things happening, so good increases there with Twickenham. With this obligation here, we have two pieces of debt that are tied to this area. One that was issued recently that we'll get into. You got the 2014 and 2026 obligations, totaling about $1.2 million in the early years, and again, stair-stepping downward to kind of go with the expirations of the area. As that expires, you'll have less revenue, so we wanted to make sure the structure was lowering your debt payments so that you have a similar coverage. And so you can see there, as we get further out, you're at about $900,000 or so of debt a year. Until this area will expire, majority of it in 2039. Those two obligations are listed here. So the first, the 2014 bond, was to fund related improvements to Old Romney Road and intersection at Twickenham Boulevard. And then the most recent obligation, the 2026 obligation, was the reconstruction of South 9th Street sanitary sewer and stormwater installation as well, bridge replacement, and then some, if there are excess funds, that other project listed there. So again, have the same kind of schedule here showing those revenues compared to your debt, illustrating that, again, ample coverage, about 270% or so, and leaving you about 2.2 million or so a year in the early years for pay-as-you-go projects and, coverage on these debt requirements here. The budget for this area amongst the buckets was about $1.9 million here for 2026. And again, roads, streets, trails, sidewalks, sanitation department capital are some potential future projects here. Okay, moving into our next economic development area is the Southeast Economic Development Area. This is where Subaru is located, just as a reference point. In 2025, this area collected about 14.9, almost $15 million, just slightly below estimates. One key point with this area, as you all know, is it is a shared area with the county. So you all collect 50% of the revenue, and they collect 50% of the revenue. So that means that you guys collected just under $7.5 million in 2025, and we expect that to increase to about $8.9 million for your portion of the collections here in 2026. And that's, again, new development. There's also expiration of property tax abatements. So as those tax abatements roll off, that means more assessed value to the base that you're able to tax. And I have noted, I haven't been saying it, but just so you know, at the bottom of these slides has, where the revenues are shown, does show what your June collections were. And they were all fairly strong, right around 50%, coming in so far throughout the year as we're anticipating them to. So just wanted to note that is listed there as well. And then I'll touch on the McCarty Lane EDA. So the McCarty Lane EDA is very similar. It's a 50% shared area here. The total last year collected for the city's portion was about $960,000. And this year, expect that to be about $887,000. So it's actually very similar. You collected more in this area last year than expected. So this area is about consistent from last year in terms of where we expect revenues to be. And you can see there the city's share of revenues is expected to be used for kind of job training, economic development incentives, and retention of current businesses. We have a couple obligations here. The Sustaining Forgivable Loan that was done here recently and the 2024A obligation. And this funded a variety of things, including the expansion of the Park East Boulevard there. So that obligation done. And there's not much left here with this obligation. As you can see, the bar chart there, plenty of revenues to cover those debt payments. But again, wanting to know here, a majority of the areas, the McCarty Lane and Southeast, will expire after 2030. So really between 2030 to 2032, a majority of this revenue is going to start coming off. And so really, again, you have the next four or 5 years or so to collect from this area. And here were the budgets for each respective area. Southeast Industrial totaling about $10.5 million, and McCarty Lane about a little over $1 million. Here are some potential projects here: public infrastructure, roads, streets, trails, sidewalks, job training, and fire department capital. I'll touch briefly here on the Heartland area. So this is actually one of the first years we expect to see some TIF from this area. Historically, we have not seen much or any revenue from this area. We expect to see about $47,000, and I already have strong collections here. You could see those proposed future projects, some potential projects to do. And then lastly, just kind of want to hit on the Park East area. This is a newer area that was done here in the last year or so. And again, just getting started, so there's not much collections yet, but once development occurs, we expect that to go. So with these, with this area, just to give you a sense, because you notice some of your areas are going to start expiring, right? This area, so it was created in the last few years, has a clock of 25 years from the date any debt is issued, right? So when we're doing projects and things and working with Dennis and his team, we're looking at, does it make sense to create a new allocation area, which you've been seeing be done for things like John Purdue, the VITA project, those kind of things, because if we were not to do that, we're only able to capture or incentivize, or however you want to look at it, until about 2039. When we're pulling those out, that extends that clock, so we're able to either provide an incentive for the project or be able to collect to, again, fill that hole when we're going to be dropping here in the next 10, 13 years or so. So the last slide I have for you today here is kind of to look at an impact on the overlapping units, kind of really how TIF works. And so, you know, a common question we'll receive is, well, if the TIF didn't exist, you know, does that mean, you know, take Creasy Central, for example, does that mean that $20 million gets shared amongst the city, the school, the county, et cetera, right? That's a question we often receive throughout the state. And I want to show you kind of how it will actually work. So just as an example, here is $10 million of assessed value, right? So this is an example. You capture $10 million of assessed value times the tax rate in this taxing district here. That generates about $235,000 of TIF. Okay, so again, for every 10 million, you know, in this taxing district, that's roughly what you're generating. Looking at the top half there, you have the county, Fairfield Township, the city, Lafayette School Corporation, Tippecanoe County Public Library, County Solid Waste, and Lafayette Public Transportation. That's the units that make up this taxing district in particular. In 2026, you can see their respective tax rates, assessed values, and levies. So I'll look at the city as an example. You can see those two gray lines there. The top one is the levies that are within the maximum levy constraint that's set by the state. And so what I mean by that is a majority of funds, property tax funds in the state of Indiana, are constrained to the maximum levy growth. So for example, for actually 2027, that percentage is 6%, meaning that the most the city can increase its levy by is 6% without going for some sort of special approval. So that $47.5 million or so of property tax, again, most it can raise it is 6% next year, as an example. The Cume Capital Development Fund, there are a couple funds that are outside of that constraint. That's one of those. So that fund collects about $2.4 million. So again, staying on that top in that gray line there. The city's assessed value is just under $4.8 billion. So in the state of Indiana, how it works is you have your levy, right? That's set, you know, the state sets it, you cannot go above it, you stay somewhere below it or at it. Most units do go to their maximum levy. The tax rate is determined by how much assessed value there is to tax, right? So your levy is $47.5 million. The AV is $4.8 billion. So what tax rate do I need to support that levy? And for the city, that's 0.9959, and then for the Cume Capital Development, 0.05. Right, so the tax rate is kind of just a formula of those other two line items there. And the same math is true for the school, library, county, township, et cetera. So what would happen if that $10 million of TIF didn't exist? It was either passed through, expired, however you want to look at it. It was not TIF anymore. Well, you could see for the city, again, taking that as an example, that assessed value goes up $10 million, but that levy doesn't change. Because again, you're at that max levy, for example, like you're at that levy, so what tax rate now, though, do I need? It's able to come down from 0.9959 to 0.0021. And the Cume Capital Development Fund, because that is outside the maximum levy, can generate a little bit of additional money, $5,000. So apply all that logic to the same math we just went through for all of the different units listed: school, library, waste, transportation, county, and township. The total taxing district rate would go from 2.3557 to 2.3508. So a drop of 0.0049, an increase in funds of $9,100. Now, from a reduced tax rate, there could be some tax credit relief. That could be new money to the units. But as a reminder, there's kind of that impact, but the redevelopment commission has now lost $235,000 of TIF to be able to do projects. So if you were to need to fund these same projects and you didn't have the TIF, you'd have to do it, and you still wanted to fund them, you'd have to do it in a variety of ways. You'd either use existing cash, you'd have to issue a property tax bond and increase your tax rate, use local income taxes, raise those, however you want to look at it, but basically saying you don't have that TIF any longer, so if that was a project you still wanted to do or needed to do, you'd have to find a different way to fund that. And again, whether that's a property tax increase, a lit increase, whatever that might look like. And so, again, that's kind of the math behind it, but I'm happy to, that concludes that presentation, but again, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have, and I appreciate your time.
That was very helpful, Greg. I mean, that's a lot of information to consume. But
Yes, sir.
it makes better sense every time we hear it. Well, appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Well, we appreciate the opportunity to work with you guys.
Yes. I think that I do have a few questions, and one of them I probably really skip because I think it's sort of an overindulgence on my part. But the last thing you just shared with us
Yes.
is actually the very first question that I wrote down.
Okay.
As we talk about the assessed value, and you gave us a definition of the economic development area and the allocation area, and money brought in and money spent. Okay, you mentioned a base, and so the TIF is everything above the base,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So,
and the base doesn't change.
it does actually a little bit each year. So that's a great question. So we're actually going through that right now throughout the state. Every auditor's office has to prepare what they call TIF neutralizations. And so the point of that, I'll just give a very high-level example. So let's say that you're setting up a new area, and the current properties within that area are valued at $100,000. That would be your base, right? That's what the schools has in their tax base, the library, the city, et cetera. Each year, that $100,000 is adjusted up or down based upon trending. So if trending, let's just call it 5%, it's roughly 5%, that base is gonna increase 5%. Because essentially what that's trying to do is say that if you hadn't created the TIF, that 100,000 is now 105,000, that needs to stay with the taxing units, because that would have been there if you didn't do the TIF. So that to answer your question, sir, that goes up or down each year depending on the trending. And then the TIF, let's say that the value is $200,000, well, now you're capturing that 200,000 minus the base in that year.
I appreciate that. And again, I know your last document kind of showed us some real numbers associated with that.
Yes, sir.
And I think my idea was that if the base stays the same, then the other taxing units never benefit.
Sure.
But that it goes up or down.
Yes.
Up or down. I understand. But that it goes up, the other taxing units should also benefit in my mind as a person who works for a taxing unit. Let me just be clear about that. All right, so that's what I was thinking about. And then as still sort of sticking with taxes per se, as far as I've seen in your presentation, there's no projection of the 2027 estimated taxes yet, right? Because we're still collecting payable in 2026.
There is, it's shown so on the different charts.
The
each
other
year.
big thing?
Yes, sir.
No, let's not look at that. Okay.
I'm sorry, no, so actually in these charts.
Did I miss it?
So, well, it's in graph form, so we just didn't want to show all the numbers, so I'll take you back to the beginning here. This is Twickenham. That blue teal, that
Yes.
kind of background, that's the revenues each year. So that's so 27, 28, we have every year in there, and then.
Okay.
Yes, sir, and then in this report does show that in number form.
Okay.
So like, for example, this is Twickenham, if you go to page 40 of your bigger report, just to give you guys an example, so that's, I'll show you guys here. That's this page 40 of this report here. That is the table form of this graph.
Okay.
So you could see, so sir, to answer your question, the estimated revenues for 27 for Twickenham
Sure.
are 3.4 million.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I see that now, and I didn't look at the very bottom of this chart. I kept looking at the bar graphs. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
And then, so I'll let this be my last question. As we talk about the TIFs expiring, which we've talked about before, I do understand that. And as you say today, the money goes away, right? So can that be reclaimed in any way?
Great question. So when a TIF expires, kind of that last illustration we went through, that assessed value then flows to the tax base, right? So the positive there is tax rates would be able to come down. The negative is you're losing that TIF dollars to be able to do future things. You can recreate the TIF area, but it restarts the base. So to kind of your question, so in my hypothetical example of 100,000 base, 200,000 is the current, if you were to reset that area, you're now at 200,000. So it's what's grown from that point forward. But you can kind of reset an area at that time. The other option is, if you do need to still do projects, I mean, we talked about this, but your tax rate will hopefully come down when this assessed value goes through. So you would have room to issue you know, an obligation if that was what you needed to do, because your tax rate's going to drop, so there's a chance you could fill that in at that point in time. Again, that's just one example, but you can restart the TIF, like I said, it would start back at 0, so.
Thank you, Mr. Bassano.
Yes, sir.
Thanks,
Absolutely.
everybody, for my question indulgence.
My comment or question perhaps is more philosophical, but I'm curious. You do this around the state, I assume.
Yes, sir.
As I look through this, I see a healthy picture with our coverage, with all of those things. Is Lafayette unique? Is it common relative to other parts of the state?
Yeah, no, not just saying this because I'm here, this is, that you guys are.
I hope you would be honest, yeah.
You guys are in a great situation in terms of your TIF, and you're able to kind of use it for projects that you either need or want to do. The reason I make the comment earlier about public safety operating cost and relying on that is there are communities out there that do have to rely on their TIF to be able to pay public safety operating costs, right? That's something they're looking at or either have started doing or are considering starting to doing because they don't necessarily have a choice, right? They need that funding. So you guys have, you know, a healthy coverage to not only support your debt if something were to happen, but 2, be able to continue doing, you know, great projects and or needs, you know, if those pop up unexpectedly. So
Anything else, folks? Greg, thank you so much for your time.
absolutely, thank you guys.
Now time for a director's report. Michelle's done.
Yeah. Just a couple quick things. One, I just wanted to tell you that we did receive a ready grant for the Lafayette Theater, $3 million. We went down to Indianapolis yesterday and got official word and award of that yesterday. So excited about that, to put that towards the project. Yes, thank you. Yeah, yeah. We were one of the larger awards in the state as well, too, so we're very happy about that. And then, our region actually got 2 other awards as well. So the Arts Federation got an award, and then there was another award as well for Wabash College in Montgomery County. So we did really well. And then also just wanted to point out, because the Redevelopment Commission has been involved in it, and that's Matchbox Co-working Studio. That was, again, established back in 2013, and the Redevelopment Commission paid a very important part in that, in its redevelopment through a bond for its renovation. And of course, we have a great partner in that with the Tippecanoe County Library, Josh Holman, so thank you for that. I wanted to point out that the governor was here this morning and took a tour of Matchbox, and we gave him an update on our progress and what we've been doing through there. And I will say he was very, very impressed and such. So it's been we have over 330 members representing over 150 businesses. And we've seen over 500 entrepreneurs come through the program and such. So it's been a great success, and we're looking forward to its continued success. So with that, if you got any questions, happy to answer them.
I do have one, if you don't mind. I didn't get a chance to ask it at the time, but going back to the Ray Magnet Wire, we approved a 7-year, 30,000 square feet expansion. Is that expansion going to take place at that site or someplace else? Because they don't really have room there, do they? He left, I didn't get a chance to ask.
It's
No,
on site.
It's on site, and actually, they have quite a bit of room, because I was talking to him before the meeting, and he said, over time, they're gonna, because they have so much space there and additional land, that more things will be happening there.
Well, that surprised me, because I got thinking about that, and I didn't think they had room.
Yeah. More than you think.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I don't have to wander now.
yeah.
Thank you, Dennis.
Sure.
Moving on to claims.
There's no questions concerning the claims. I'll make a motion that we approve the claims totaling $9,288,752.35 today, July 23rd, 2026.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving claims?
Aye.
Opposed? Claims are approved. At this point, we'd open the floor up to public comment. If anyone would like to approach the commission and share comments, we'd appreciate it. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor?